So hello fellow Earthlings, this is Earthling 6455463728. And I think that generational wealth is a pointless and silly idea, concept that you are going to earn a whole bunch of money and pass it down through the generations to your descendants for a long period of time. For one thing, as far as I've seen, it kind of puts a burden on your descendants. I remember looking at Jaden Smith in a Red Table Talk, and he was sitting down, and I think Will Smith had drawn reference to the fact that, he had come from nothing and he had amassed the position that he was in, and he was passing it on to his kids. And Jaden Smith was like, but what if we lose everything? And yeah, that is a burden that you're putting on to the subsequent generations. That if they make a wrong move and they lose everything, who's to say that they might even be able to pick up those pieces and try again? Because one of the things in life is that what your habits are what you're going to continue to do. If you are somebody who, let's say, came from nothing, what you might be trying to do in life is to continue to strive and try and try and try and try. If you're born into a wealthy family, is that something that you would learn? I mean, you could. That might be the case where you do learn to do that. But at the bottom, at the end of the day, you know that there's nothing really at stake. You could just put all of the resources into high yielding investments and do nothing. And I think that might be at the back of your mind, that I don't want to lose it. I don't want to make any mistakes doing this or that or the other. So you're putting a burden on your descendants that if they lose it, that they are the ones who are responsible for having done this thing that has been through their generations, and no, no, no. The weight of all of this is on their backs, right? Then there's also affluenza. I don't know how real it is, but it was used as a defense for this kid who, while drunk, was responsible for the deaths of at least four people. And that was the case put forward by his attorney, that he suffered from affluenza. He didn't really was not capable of assessing the ramifications of his actions because of all of this wealth that was in his life. And yeah, he got paroled, and it turned out that when he broke parole, he flaunted it, and rather than go to jail to um, pay for breaking the parole, he escaped to Mexico with his mother. I don't know where he is now, but if you don't have a lot of wealth, you're probably not going to get affluenza. Let's say if it's a real thing. Next thing is, people have this idea, I want to pass it on to my grandchildren and my great grandchildren. With each passing generation, these people are less related to you, to the point where, your grandkid, if you are still on good terms with his grandmother, you have a 50% interest in it. You might love his grandmother, his grandfather, or whoever it is that you have the kid with. And let's say it's, I don't know, donated, a donated egg or a donated sperm or something like that. Then the other person, if it's a foster person, let's say it's two gay guys, and they have a kid, then that person is completely unrelated genetically. One of the people is completely unrelated genetically. So I guess it's because of your pledge to have a relationship with this person, and you think of, their descendants as your foster descendants or something along those lines. But my whole point is, why not do as much as you can for your fellow man rather than try to keep your money and resources within this walled garden of your alleged descendants to whom you are in, will be increasingly unrelated to anyway. They're going to be like random strangers to you anyway as you get further and further down throughout the generations. So, why don't you look around and try to make the world a better place for your um, descendants to live in rather than just passing along wealth? Maybe you could pass along your values, spend time with them, maybe your work ethic, your your love of humanity. Maybe that's something that might be more important to pass along rather than the burden and the concern of whether or not they might be responsible for not investing properly, making mistakes, investment mistakes, maybe losing the whole thing. Maybe it's better that you do that. And maybe you give them the opportunity, the real opportunity, the opportunity of consequences where they are not shielded from the consequences of what they do because they have enough money to make those things go away or enough influence to kill stories or, along those lines where they can't hit rock bottom because they can't run out of money. How about you just spend time with them and give them your values rather than giving them the resources to be as crazy almost as they want to be without ramifications? Also, if the friends or just people that your descendants know realize their wealth, your descendants will also have this concern, rightly so, that people might not be interested in them for themselves, but for what they people think they can get from those people based on the wealth that they can display, based on where they live. Um, yeah, I think old money tends not to flaunt it that much, but still, they would never necessarily, that's the cost of people knowing that you're wealthy, that you don't know if they're just after your money. And the chance, the likelihood, the possibility of always being concerned that people are out to swindle you. Is that really a gift that you want to pass on to your descendants? A distrust of other people because they never know where they really stand with those other people. For me, it feels as if, number one, the responsibility of that wealth that you pass on to them, the risk of affluenza and not realizing the consequences of your actions, the uncertainty of whether or not people actually are interested in them for themselves, the fact that it's so much harder for your chickens to come home to roost and for you to hit rock bottom when you need to in order to change a particular bad path that you're on. The ease of having, strained or tenuous familial relationships when, for example, your parents can just, or parents, not your parents, but the parents, your descendants with their kids can just leave their kids with the au pair or the nanny or whoever and go wherever for long periods of time. Or maybe send these kids to boarding school so that the money ends up being a sort of a babysitter. I don't know. I mean, of course, the flip side to that is that people might have to work 3 and 4 jobs to get ends to meet. But if you instill an understanding of how the world really works, and the fact that it is much better to build social relationships, not just when it comes to your emotional well being, but in terms of being successful in life as well. They say that people who have many friends can tend to have many, what's that, networking opportunities in their life and can be more successful. That is more important, perhaps, than any amount of money that you can give. If you can pass on the self reliance and the ability to understand that you can always start over to your descendants, that seems so much more important than passing on money, which can foster an inability to be self reliant and realize that you can always start over. Even if you lost every single thing, all of the money, you can start over because you understand how society works, and also a love of other people, of humanity. They say, for example, that a society is can be judged by how it treats the least people in society. And I don't want to go too far off track, but I know that there's apparently a an architect, famous architect in Spain, I believe, who uh, I think he got hit and he ended up in the on the street bleeding and suffering, and because people thought that he was a homeless person, and only when they finally recognized him did they take him to hospital, and it was too late and he died. If everybody in Spain just would have taken care of anybody, he would have survived. If you can teach your descendants and your kids, and you can pass that on, the importance of treating everybody well, then it's much more likely that those people would be helped in any serious situation. If they go through life not giving other people respect and treating on other people's emotions and their feelings and everything else, then if anything happens, who's going to be there for them? Probably nobody. And that seems a lot more important than passing on generational wealth. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. So feel free to like, share, subscribe, anything like that, um, the same way that you would if this were your piece, what you'd want other people to do. Peace.